The soft golden light of the Beverly Hills restaurant cast a warm glow over the polished tables, but for Madeline Harris, it felt like a stage set for confrontation. She entered with a purposeful stride, her designer heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Across the room, Vanessa Cole, the elegant wife of billionaire Adrian Voss, was laughing with her young son, Noah, a carefree sound that pricked at Madeline's pride. Madeline's hands trembled ever so slightly as she approached, her jealousy mingling with the memory of the years she had shared with Adrian before fate, and a series of lies, had torn them apart. Vanessa, Madeline's voice carried just enough sweetness to sound like civility, but the underlying venom was unmistakable. Vanessa looked up, startled by the sharp intrusion into her otherwise calm evening. Her eyes flicked to Adrian, who had been quietly reviewing the wine list, unaware of the storm approaching. "Madeline," Vanessa said carefully, keeping her voice calm, but the tension was immediate. Madeline stepped closer, ignoring the polite social buffer that had unconsciously formed between Vanessa and the other diners. She leaned in, just enough to make Vanessa stiffen, her fingers tightening around Noah's small hand. "You really think you can just take everything from me?" Madeline's whisper sharpened into a hiss, her jealousy crystallizing into something almost tangible. Vanessa's brows furrowed, her mouth opening to reply, but no words came at first. She glanced at Adrian, whose attention now pivoted sharply toward the escalating scene. His eyes, the kind that once captivated Madeline so completely, now held only alert concern. Noah, sensing the rising tension, hid his small face against his mother's arm, a quiet witness to a grown-up storm he didn't fully understand. The restaurant seemed to hold its breath as Madeline's hand shot out, brushing against Vanessa's arm not lightly, but with a forceful shove that sent the wine glass teetering dangerously. The other diners froze, watching the silent drama unfold like a slow-motion performance. Vanessa instinctively stepped back, but Madeline, fueled by lingering resentment and the sharp sting of lost love, did not relent. "You stole him from me," she spat, her voice trembling with a mixture of rage and heartbreak, though her eyes betrayed the insecurity beneath. A camera phone from a nearby table caught the moment, the red record light blinking ominously. Adrian moved swiftly then, crossing the room with a measured calm, but a hint of urgency in his stride. He placed a firm hand on Madeline's shoulder, gently but insistently. "Madeline, enough," he said, his voice low, a blend of authority and restrained frustration. She jerked away, spinning toward him, her anger pivoting from Vanessa to the man she once called hers. "You think I don't matter anymore?" "After everything," she demanded, her voice quivering, oscillating between fury and vulnerability. Adrian's jaw tightened, memories of past mistakes surfacing unbidden, but his gaze returned immediately to Vanessa and Noah, recognizing the innocent stakes at hand. Vanessa's voice finally emerged, soft yet unwavering. "Madeline, I'm not your enemy," she said, her tone carefully chosen, a bridge of civility across the chasm of years. Madeline's eyes blazed, misreading the calmness for condescension. She grabbed at Vanessa's arm again, more aggressively this time, and the camera phone captured it. The confrontation had gone viral before anyone could blink. The murmurs around the restaurant rose, some patrons reaching for their own devices, others simply leaning forward, caught in the tension. Madeline's heart raced. She thought the world would see her pain, but instead, she felt the sting of public scrutiny beginning to burn. Noah, small but perceptive, tugged gently at his mother's dress. "Mom, she's lying about you," he said quietly, his innocent declaration piercing the tense air. Vanessa's eyes softened, a mix of pride and sadness washing over her. The boy had a way of seeing truths adults had buried. Madeline froze, her face contorting with disbelief. "What did you say?" she demanded, her voice sharper now, as if the child's words were a personal attack. Adrian stepped closer, placing himself subtly between Madeline and his family. "She's right, Madeline. You know what's true," he said quietly, but with an undeniable firmness. His presence was steady, a grounding force in the storm of jealousy. The restaurant manager had approached cautiously, his attempts to calm the situation only highlighting the chaos. Madeline, however, was beyond reason. Her voice rose, accusing Vanessa of stealing the man she claimed to love. Vanessa, maintaining composure, did not retaliate physically but did not retreat. Her calm eyes, full of history and hardship, held Madeline's gaze with a quiet insistence that this confrontation would not continue unchecked. The camera phone's red blinking light became a silent witness to the unraveling of old wounds, old mistakes, and a past Madeline could not let go. Adrian's mind raced, balancing the years of complicated emotions with the immediate safety of his family. He glanced at Noah, who clung to Vanessa with a trust that was both simple and profound, a reminder that innocence often saw through deceit more clearly than adults could. "Madeline, you need to stop this," he said, his voice firm yet measured. "This isn't just about us. It's about the boy, about your own dignity." Madeline's chest heaved with the intensity of emotions she had suppressed for years. Her lips quivered, her anger mingling with the realization that her carefully constructed narrative was cracking under the weight of truth. For a moment, time slowed. Madeline's eyes darted to the phone, to the diners, to Adrian, and then finally to Vanessa. She saw a woman not just standing in front of her, but a family that had endured deception, manipulation, and societal pressures, and still remained intact. The clarity was jarring, painful, yet unavoidable. She withdrew, her arms falling limply by her sides, the fire in her gaze dimming to a flicker of uncertainty. Vanessa exhaled slowly, sensing the momentary retreat, but did not step closer. Adrian, sensing the fragile pause, kept his stance protective yet non-aggressive, ready for any sudden move. Outside, the camera phone would spread the story across social media before the night ended. The video would become a spark, igniting public interest, debates, and judgments. But inside the restaurant, the immediate tension held its own weight. Madeline's jealousy had ignited a public spectacle, yet the family she had once tried to dismantle stood united. Noah's small hand, wrapped around Vanessa's, a living symbol of love, truth, and loyalty, reminded everyone involved that innocence often carries the gravest weight in moments of moral reckoning. As the first murmurs of onlookers' reactions filled the restaurant, Madeline realized she was cornered not by physical barriers, but by truth, by time, and by the undeniable force of love that had endured beyond her manipulations. Adrian's presence, steady and unwavering, anchored Vanessa and Noah in a calm certainty that Madeline could no longer contest. The golden light of the restaurant, once warm and inviting, now felt almost accusatory, bathing her in the exposure she had tried so desperately to avoid. And in that light, the first cracks of self-awareness appeared, hinting that the storm she had unleashed was only the beginning of consequences she could not ignore. Adrian's hand lingered briefly on Vanessa's shoulder, a silent reassurance as the last echo of Madeline's outburst faded into murmurs of concern around the restaurant. Noah's small face peeked from behind his mother, his wide eyes scanning the room as if expecting another attack, yet finding safety in his father's calm presence. "It's okay to feel scared, baby," Vanessa murmured softly, smoothing his hair. She glanced at Adrian, whose gaze remained fixed on the retreating figure of Madeline, now muttering under her breath, her fury simmering but constrained by the mounting awareness of witnesses. The atmosphere was heavy with tension, a mix of residual anger and fragile relief, the kind that only comes after a confrontation that could have erupted into irreversible chaos. Adrian stepped forward, his voice firm but tempered with care. "Vanessa, we need to get Noah out of here," he said, signaling to the manager to clear the path to the exit. As they moved, Noah tugged at his mother's sleeve, his small fingers entwining with hers. "Mom, she lied about everything. She tried to make you go away," he said, his words hesitant yet honest. Vanessa stopped, kneeling to meet his gaze, her heart swelling with pride and pain simultaneously. She had always known the past was messy, but hearing the truth from her son, so pure and unfiltered, brought both clarity and a sharp ache. Adrian's chest tightened at the boy's revelation. He had regretted the decisions that had allowed Madeline to manipulate him years ago, to sow seeds of doubt that had fractured his family. Now, the truth, innocent and unwavering, was a balm and a mirror all at once. They stepped into the cool evening air, the city lights shimmering against the glossy streets of Beverly Hills. Madeline had already slipped past the exit, her high heels fading into the distance, but Adrian knew the confrontation was far from over. "Vanessa, we need to address this," he said quietly, keeping his voice low so Noah wouldn't catch the tension. Vanessa nodded, holding his gaze with a mixture of determination and vulnerability. "She has to face the truth," Vanessa said, her voice steady, despite the adrenaline still coursing through her. Noah, sensing the gravity of his parents' discussion, clutched his mother's hand, his own innocence a stark contrast to the tangled web of past lies and resentments. Adrian inhaled deeply, memories of mistakes and misjudgments flooding back. He had been young, influenced by Madeline's manipulations and societal prejudices, allowing doubt to overshadow trust. "I should have never let her push us apart," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Vanessa's hand found his, gripping gently. "We can't change the past," she said softly, "but we can choose how to move forward." Noah looked up, his small eyes shining with earnest clarity. "Dad, you stayed," he said simply, a statement that carried more weight than years of argument could muster. Adrian knelt to his son's level, meeting that honesty with tears he hadn't anticipated. "Yes, son, I stayed, and I will always choose you both," he said, the words resonating in the quiet night. Madeline, meanwhile, had retreated to a corner across the street, pulling her phone from her clutch. She scrolled through the first viral clips of the confrontation, her face tightening as the comments and shares multiplied at an alarming rate. She had underestimated the power of truth, underestimated the eyes of the world, and the innocence of a child who refused to be manipulated. Each post, each retweet, felt like a silent judgment. The city's vibrant nightlife continued around her, indifferent yet glaringly observant, the world watching the unraveling of a story she thought she controlled. Anger flared, but beneath it lay a deeper pang of regret, a slow dawning that her attempt to reclaim a past love had been rooted not in desire, but in resentment and prejudice. Across town, Adrian and Vanessa reached their home, the familiar warmth of the family residence offering a small reprieve from the evening's chaos. They settled in the living room, Noah curled up with a soft blanket, still processing the events of the night. Vanessa poured 2 glasses of water, setting one beside Adrian, the simple gesture of normalcy grounding them both. "I never want him to feel unsafe because of someone else's anger," Vanessa said quietly, her gaze steady. Adrian nodded, his thoughts heavy with responsibility and regret. "I know, and I failed to protect that before," he admitted. "But not tonight. Not anymore." The acknowledgement was weighty, a reconciliation with his own past mistakes and a reaffirmation of commitment to his family. A soft knock at the door drew their attention. An elderly gentleman, distinguished yet gentle in appearance, stepped in, introducing himself as Henry Whitman, a longtime family friend of Adrian's late mother. "I saw what happened at the restaurant," he said, his voice calm but resolute, "and I wanted to offer my support. What you're facing is more than jealousy. It's a battle against lies and prejudice. I know because I once lost love to the same forces." Vanessa invited him in, grateful for an ally, someone whose wisdom could offer perspective and guidance. Henry sat with them, recounting his own experiences, subtly drawing parallels that resonated with the present, how societal bias and unspoken expectations had once pushed away the love of his life, leaving scars he carried to this day. As they spoke, Noah listened quietly, absorbing not only the details but the tone, the reassurance, and the acknowledgement that love sometimes required courage, patience, and unwavering loyalty. Adrian felt a renewed strength coursing through him, the weight of past errors counterbalanced by the clarity of present truth. The confrontation with Madeline had exposed the raw fractures in their family history, but it also illuminated the resilience of trust, communication, and the innocence of a child whose honesty could not be corrupted. Later that night, as the city lights dimmed and the world seemed to pause in quiet contemplation, Adrian reflected on the confrontation, the viral video, and the revelations shared by Noah. He recognized that love was not merely an emotion, it was a choice, a deliberate act of protection, forgiveness, and presence. Vanessa, sitting beside him, represented the endurance of truth and the unassailable strength of family bonds. Noah, small but mighty in perception, embodied the moral compass that adults often overlooked. Together, they formed a unit stronger than any rumor, any prejudice, or any past manipulation could threaten. Meanwhile, Madeline's frustration simmered at home, compounded by a growing awareness that her attempts to rewrite the past had been captured and exposed for the world to witness. Adrian's unwavering stance, Vanessa's composure, and Noah's clear-eyed honesty had created an undeniable tableau of truth. She realized, painfully, that her fight was no longer just against the couple. It was against the inexorable consequences of lies, societal bias, and the unyielding clarity of innocence. In this realization lay the first seeds of self-reflection, though they were buried beneath layers of pride and anger. By the end of the night, the family had not only survived the confrontation but had also reaffirmed the integrity of their bonds. Adrian acknowledged past errors, Vanessa embraced the strength she had always carried quietly, and Noah's unwavering honesty had become both shield and catalyst for truth. Outside, the city continued to buzz, oblivious to the intimate revelations that had taken place within these walls, yet the world had already begun to witness the unfolding of consequences and the enduring power of love and truth. Madeline's world had begun to unravel with a force she could neither contain nor control. The restaurant video, already circulating, had become a viral sensation, and with it came a wave of public scrutiny. Her name appeared in headlines, her social media profiles flooded with judgment and debate. Business partners withdrew invitations, sponsorships evaporated, and friends who had once celebrated her ambition now kept a cautious distance. She sat alone in her penthouse, the city lights glittering outside her floor-to-ceiling windows, a stark contrast to the chaos within. Each notification on her phone felt like a judgment, each comment a reminder of the reality she could no longer deny. Her mind raced with the memories of the confrontation, Noah's small yet piercing words, and Adrian's unwavering choice to protect his family. Meanwhile, Adrian and Vanessa tried to reclaim normalcy in their home, though they knew the aftermath of that evening would ripple far beyond their front door. The couple spent hours talking, reflecting on past mistakes and the manipulations that had once nearly torn them apart. Adrian admitted to the lingering guilt he carried for allowing Madeline's lies to influence his judgment years ago. "I let my doubts cloud my decisions," he confessed, his voice thick with emotion. Vanessa squeezed his hand, her calm presence steadying him. "We can't change the past," she reminded him gently. "But we can choose how we move forward together. For us, for Noah." The young boy, curled up on the sofa with a blanket, listened attentively, his eyes reflecting trust and reassurance in the adults who had weathered the storm. In the days that followed, Madeline struggled with the consequences of her actions. The world had not forgiven her so easily, and the public backlash was a mirror of the shame she had long tried to bury. Yet, it was Noah's honest revelation that gnawed at her conscience. She realized the pain she had inflicted was not just emotional. It had fractured trust, innocence, and family unity. She spent hours in reflection, poring over old photos and messages that revealed the manipulations she had employed to drive a wedge between Adrian and Vanessa. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel the weight of responsibility, understanding that redemption would require humility, honesty, and concrete action, not just words of regret. Meanwhile, Vanessa, in an act that stunned friends and observers alike, chose to offer a path toward reconciliation. She reached out to Madeline through a private message, acknowledging the pain, but also extending a hand of forgiveness. "I know the past was complicated," Vanessa wrote. "We all made mistakes, but I hope you can find a way to make amends and rebuild your life with honesty." Adrian, initially wary of this approach, came to see the wisdom in his wife's gesture. Forgiveness, he realized, was not only a gift to the one being forgiven, but also a means to solidify the family's own moral compass. Noah, ever perceptive, smiled quietly when he saw the exchange, as though sensing the shift from anger and resentment to the possibility of growth and understanding. The impact of the viral video extended beyond their immediate circle. Discussions erupted across social media platforms, news outlets, and community forums about the power of honesty, the innocence of children as truth tellers, and the consequences of jealousy, and manipulation. Henry Whitman, the elderly family friend who had once shared his own story of lost love, found himself interviewed on a local news segment. He spoke with quiet authority about societal prejudice, the importance of confronting mistakes, and the enduring strength of familial bonds. Love, he emphasized, is a choice, a deliberate act of courage and understanding. We all have the opportunity to choose rightly, even after mistakes. The public resonated with his message, and the story became more than a scandal. It became a movement, inspiring dialogue about empathy, accountability, and forgiveness. As weeks passed, Madeline took tangible steps toward redemption. She liquidated assets, selling luxury items not out of desperation, but as a symbolic acknowledgement of her past mistakes. The proceeds were allocated to a fund she established to assist families affected by manipulation, lies, and societal prejudice. The fund, though modest in its early days, gained support from communities moved by her sincere effort. In public forums on accountability, gradually transforming her reputation from that of a bitter ex to someone actively seeking to repair the harm she had caused. Each act of restitution, no matter how small, was a brick in the reconstruction of her moral foundation. Adrian and Vanessa, observing these developments, continued to nurture their own family bonds. Adrian wrote a heartfelt letter to Vanessa, expressing gratitude for her strength, wisdom, and unwavering dedication. "You've shown me that love is not just about passion," he wrote. "It's about patience, forgiveness, and standing firm when the world tests us." Vanessa kept the letter beside her bedside lamp, a daily reminder of the resilience that had carried them through conflict and chaos. Noah, growing older and more perceptive, often asked questions about fairness, truth, and courage, sparking meaningful conversations that deepened the family's connection and moral understanding. The late mother of Adrian, whose letters had always been a source of comfort and guidance, posthumously revealed her acceptance of Vanessa through a heartfelt note. Adrian read it aloud one evening, Vanessa by his side, tears glimmering in her eyes. "I always hoped you would find someone who cherishes you," the letter read. "Vanessa is the love and strength I always wished for Adrian, and I trust your union will honor both love and dignity." The revelation was more than sentimental. It was an affirmation that societal status and prejudice should never dictate the heart's choice, reinforcing the lessons of the confrontation and the family's journey toward healing. In the months that followed, the story's reach expanded globally. Schools, workplaces, and social organizations used the video as a discussion point, examining how bias, jealousy, and dishonesty could damage relationships, and how courage, honesty, and forgiveness could repair them. Vanessa participated in workshops highlighting the role of children as moral beacons within families, while Adrian spoke about the necessity of owning mistakes and choosing family over social pressure. Madeline, now fully immersed in her path toward restitution, shared her experiences in interviews, encouraging others to acknowledge past wrongs and pursue redemption sincerely. Ultimately, the confrontation that had begun with anger and jealousy evolved into a narrative of redemption and societal reflection. Families inspired by the story took steps to resolve their own conflicts. Schools integrated lessons on empathy and honesty, and online communities debated the role of social media in exposing truth while promoting accountability. Vanessa's choice to forgive, Adrian's decision to prioritize family, and Noah's unwavering honesty became guiding lights, demonstrating that love, when coupled with courage and integrity, could withstand manipulation, prejudice, and public scrutiny. As Madeline worked to atone, she began to understand that redemption was neither instantaneous nor guaranteed, but a continuous effort to reconcile actions with conscience. Each act of kindness, each acknowledgement of truth, and each step toward restitution brought her closer to rebuilding not only her reputation, but her own sense of moral purpose. The journey was long and often humbling, but it reflected the story's central truth, that love, forgiveness, and honesty held the power to transform lives, mend families, and inspire society. In the quiet evenings that followed, Adrian, Vanessa, and Noah would often sit together, reflecting on the journey from chaos to clarity. They had faced jealousy, deceit, and societal judgment, yet they emerged stronger, bonded not by wealth or status, but by unwavering commitment, integrity, and love. The world had watched, judged, and ultimately learned alongside them, creating a ripple effect of understanding, compassion, and courage that extended far beyond the glimmering streets of Beverly Hills. Moral lesson: true love endures when nurtured with patience, honesty, and courage. Forgiveness is not weakness, but a bridge to healing, allowing both giver and receiver to grow. Children often reveal truths adults overlook, reminding us that innocence and integrity are powerful. Societal prejudice and jealousy can fracture families, yet conscious choices to protect and cherish one another restore trust. Redemption requires accountability, consistent effort, and genuine empathy. By choosing family, truth, and understanding over past grievances, individuals can inspire wider communities, proving that love, resilience, and forgiveness hold the power to transform not just lives, but society itself.